Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you take a look at the day, at the end of the day, after you turn off the lights, just before you close your eyes, just before you scoot down underneath the sheets and find that perfect spot for your head and your pillow, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you step out on faith and take that leap into the unknown, when you know that rejection is far more likely than acceptance. I mean, after you put yourself on a tightrope of hope and you just have a string of support, but you persevere in the face of adversity, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When the right thing to do was not the popular thing to do. When you want to do the popular thing, but it's not the wrong thing. I mean, it's the wrong thing, but it's not the wrong thing. And you know it's the wrong thing, but it's the thing that will make you popular. Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you wake up tomorrow and yesterday wasn't as bad as you thought it was, and that if you can make it through today doing what you're supposed to do, only doing it better than yesterday because you weren't too sure of yesterday, but today is looking pretty good. And if you can get through today after yesterday, tomorrow will be a breeze. Don't you want to be impressed? I know I want to be impressed.
Hello, people. This is Joe Bride, and I am your host for Poetry Song BFD Battle for Dominance. Okay, you can find me on my website at mamayaya.wixsite.com forward slash website. Did I say that right? Let me try it again. You can find me at mamayaya.wixsite.com forward slash website. That's MOMMAYAYA dot wixsite.com forward slash website. Okay, so tonight I want to talk to you about um, preteen suicides. Now, this is a rebroadcast, literally a rebroadcast of a show I just did because I was having some real serious um, sound issues on my dashboard. I didn't know that I was having them until after I finished the show, and I like to listen to my show after I play it, and I heard the pre-recorded poems that I play for the show, but apparently my voice didn't show up. So, go figure, right? I don't know what happened. Anyway, we're going to go back through that again. So what I'm talking about tonight are preteen suicides in the United States of America. What prompted me to have this subject was I was listening to the Young Turks talk about an incident with some teenage 14-year-old white boys who were taunting and eventually put a rope around the neck of a 8-year-old boy, and they watched him swing back and forth for a few seconds until this young boy finally freed himself. He suffered some severe burns to his neck. He had some serious issues. He wound up being airlifted to a hospital. His mother posted the incident on Facebook. This incident happened, believe it or not, back in August of this year, August the 18th, I think, or 28th of this year. And I don't know why, but some news outlets are just starting to talk about it. Apparently, the police had been protecting the young boys who hung the 8-year-old, 14-year-old boys who hung an 8-year-old boy because they said, according to the parents of the 8-year-old boy, he's biracial. So it's racially motivated in their eyes. It came from some taunts and some rocks being thrown. And so, but what prompts a 14-year-old to taunt an 8-year-old to the point where they hang him on a tree? And so I was looking up all of this, and it occurred to me that bullying is always a problem. And what happens when a child is bullied? I don't really want to talk about the kid who do the bullying. I mean, obviously they have some issues. These particular young boys come from some dichotomy of life where it's okay to do the things that they do. They obviously still themselves have some issues, and they haven't been addressed. But we're going to be talking about tonight, here in this day and age, the rise in preteen suicides in this country. I'm going to play you some Joe's poetry, excerpts from my resume tonight. Some of it will be relevant, some of it won't. I'm going to do this all over again. It's all off the cuff. I got my notes in front of me, but as usual, I want you to enjoy the journey with me one line at a time. Right now, I'm going to play you I Am Affected.
I am affected by your smile, witty and thoughtful, deceiving and beguiling, amorous and suspicious, your impressive giving nature that is you. I am affected by your posture, sitting up straight, back pressed firmly against the cushion, eyes forward, listening intently, hanging on my every word, poised for the confrontation destined to come. I am affected by your thoughts, summations and suppositions wound tightly together by a single strand of perception, by your tomes on your shelves, stacked neatly, read thoroughly. I am affected by your perceptions, the way you process information and extricate simplistic meaning from an enigma that is merely life. I am deeply affected by you, what you are, what you will be, what you have become.
So that was Don't You Want to Be Impressed? I know I want to be impressed. Oh no, that's what I'm gonna play next. That one was called "I Am Affected." Okay, it's that kind of night. Okay, so before I do that, let me play you. Let me just tell you some of the things that of the research I went through. USA Today, Time Magazine, Psychology Today, The Atlantic.com, Newsweek, and the Washington Post, and they have all written stories about preteen youth and teen suicide. It is a growing problem in our country today. I have some facts, I have some statements, and I have a story that I want to share with you about the mother of the child who probably is going to have a whole lot of counseling ahead of him as he gets older at the tender age of 8. What's the first things I want you to know is in the research that I did, um, suicide affects, in the age group mostly in this country, the age of young people between the ages of 18 to 25 years old. In the grades from 9 to 12, 7% are seriously contemplating suicide. 14% of high school students have gone so far as to make a plan. That means they have written a letter, they know how they're going to do it, they know where they're going to do it, and they know who they would like to find them when it's all said and done. Of those numbers, females are more likely to have thoughts of suicide more than males. So females actually commit suicide more than males. However, males are 4 times more likely to commit suicide and be successful. It's the seventh highest cause of death today among the males in our country, and the 14th highest cause of death in women in our country today. According to the CDC, 22% of females, 12% of males between the ages of 9 to 12 years old experience suicidal thoughts on a regular basis over the past year. Suicide attempts are real, people. They are not a cry for attention, because these kids really have issues that they do not know how to talk about, and they internalize them to the point where they feel like they don't belong here. That's not a cry for help when your child has tried to poison themselves, do drugs, alcohol to the extent that they black out. They're trying to kill themselves. Right? So moving on, the CDC says that 8% of all students in this country attempt suicide or attempted suicide at least one time over the past year. I'll let y'all stew on that a little bit. Those are some serious numbers to think about when we're thinking about our children. Those are really serious numbers to think about. Right now, I just want you to listen to what I was going to play before. Don't you want to be impressed?
Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you take a look at the day, at the end of the day, after you turn off the lights, just before you close your eyes, just before you scoot down underneath the sheets and find that perfect spot for your head and your pillow, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you step out on faith and take that leap into the unknown, when you know that rejection is far more likely than acceptance. I mean, after you put yourself on a tightrope of hope and you just have a string of support, but you persevere in the face of adversity, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When the right thing to do was not the popular thing to do. When you want to do the popular thing, but it's not the wrong thing. I mean, it's the wrong thing, but it's not the wrong thing. And you know it's the wrong thing, but it's the thing that will make you popular. Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you wake up tomorrow and yesterday wasn't as bad as you thought it was, and that if you can make it through today doing what you're supposed to do, only doing it better than yesterday because you weren't too sure of yesterday, but today is looking pretty good. And if you can get through today after yesterday, tomorrow will be a breeze. Don't you want to be impressed? I know I want to be impressed.
Well, there it is. We all want to be impressed. Well, that poem basically was talking about wanting to be impressed by what you did today. Did you make a difference in somebody's life for the better? Did you know that September 10th was World Suicide Prevention Day? How about that? That was just yesterday. Amazing, right? In 2013, suicide was ranked the 10th leading cause of death in this country of all ages. Now, wrap your head around that. I'm Johanna Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. And I am talking about teen and preteen suicide tonight with some hopefully appropriate poetry to go along with it. I try to keep my shows thematic. I have poetry for everybody. You can find out all about my poetry and what I like to talk about the most on my website. I'm at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. That's MOMMAYAYA /wixsite .com/website. I know it's a lot, but either that, you can just type in on any internet browser. I'll do Google mostly. You can just go ahead and Google me, Johanna Bright, and Joe's Poetry, excerpts from my resume. That will also get you to my website. It will get you to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. I got so many places, but I love social media. I enjoy it very much. So anyway, tonight I'm talking about teen youth or preteen youth, as it were. The statistics that I found will blow your mind with everything that's going on in our country. A lot of the really important issues get put to the wayside. And so tonight I decided I'm going to talk about how important it is for us to connect with our children. I have children. I have grandchildren. And I do not want anything to come between me and them to the point where they think that their life is null and void and that they feel like they have to take their life because they just feel like they have no one that they can talk to. Okay, so next on the list is this. The CDC says 3% or so of students who attempt suicide or attempted suicide in 2015 hurt themselves by injury, poisoning, or overdose. Now, these are the new statistics. They come out with them every couple of years. So 2015 is very relevant. 20% of all youth ages 13 to 18 will have a serious mental health issue. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 5 teens are going to have that problem. 1 in 5. That means just look at a group of kids. If you got more than 15 or 20 kids in a group and there's some problems happening, think about this. Every 4 kids, one of them have a serious mental health issue. And that could mean anything, people. Don't just think that they're somehow psychotic or something like that. Kids have been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, they have depression, anxiety, a plethora of problems, and they need to be addressed. And many of them don't know how to talk to the adults in their lives. So we have to become more open to our children, listen to what they have to say, and don't be quick to judge, and don't think that you have the answers, because sometimes we think we're older and we've lived that life and we may have the answers and we just don't. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be talking about some of the signs to look for in our teens. Now, you may not be able to find these signs in your 5 to 7 year old, your 5 to 11 year old. Those are very hard to figure out, but they can be very, very easy to figure out because they're kids, and the scope of their lives is the microcosm of their lives is so small. You can go, wow, But they too need you to listen to them when they get home from school. When you're at the end of your day, hey baby, how was your day? And be open to listen to whatever they have to say, whatever it is. Okay, so on my list of things to do, I have, and the first one is drugs or alcohol use. Now, some of these kids have probably tried drugs by the time they're age 11 or 12 years old. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that our kids are perfect. However, if your child is under some anxiety, depression, or something else, and they will try drugs. But if it's really just taking hold of them, they're going to try more than just drugs. They're going to try alcohol, and they're going to start acting out. So you could be on the lookout for that. They're not just misbehaving because their friends are doing it. Some of them are doing it. 1 in 5 kids are doing it because they have issues that they need to talk about, and they don't feel like they can talk to anybody about them. Then you have, they said, fluctuation in weight. A lot of kids, well, I sometimes I want to think that they're talking about just girls, but boys have the same problem. They have these people that they have put on pedestals in Hollywood. The perfect kid has a mom, a father, their father and mother have a job, their sisters and brothers are happy, go lucky, they have friends, blah, 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 blah. And their mind says that they have to fit into that dichotomy. They want to be like that person, and when they can't be like that person, therein lies the problem. Hollywood, be careful what we let our children watch on TV. All that glitters is not gold. Next, they have prolonged periods of sadness or apathy. According to PsychCentral.com, in kids grieving, apathy shouldn't last more than 2 weeks. Prolonged crying, fatigue, sad feelings that last longer than a month could be a sign of depression taking hold. So pay very close. If your child has suddenly lost a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a friend, or somebody that they were particularly close to, and it's been longer than 2 weeks to a month since that loss, check them out. Find out if there's something that you can do. My own daughter had grief that turned into depression, and I had to address that right away because it can be very, very not wanting to live without that person. That's intense. The next one is mental health. They have behavior or conduct disorder, and that's a long list of things. I'm a parent. I'm not a doctor. I did some research. I say if your child is having some conduct or misbehavior going on in school, check it out. Find out what that source is just by talking to them, talking to their teacher. Go up to that school. Make an appointment. Find out what's going on in your kids' classes. Don't be ashamed to say that my kid's having some problems at home, and I'm wondering if it's not happening at home, maybe it's coming from school, maybe it's coming from some other sources. But as parents, we have to become detectives and find out what's going on with our kids without making them feel like that they're being judged. The next one that I have on the list, which is my last one, is the school dropout rate. It says half of all the kids with mental illness will drop out at age 14 or older and never get their high school diploma. And this is according to the National Alliance of Mental Illness. That's some more for you to think about, chew on, and just let yourself go. Don't judge yourself. Don't condemn yourself. This is information I'm passing on. I found out, and I want you to know too. Listen to this. Was it really all going so well? Was it really going all so well? You were finally doing all those things that you thought you wanted to do. The mistress or master of your destiny. No one, no one had control over your day. It was planned out to your specifications, desires, goals. Nothing happened that you didn't know about in your life. You made your own schedule, set, planned, and wrote the script of your day. Then you got sucker punched into thinking that you had a place in this world. You foolhardily believed that this was a race you could win, and that you had a dog in this fight. Your 2 proverbial cents to put in and make a difference. You weren't alone. Even though you completely forgot that you didn't want anything to do with the fight, because the fight, the battle, the war wasn't for people like you. People who believe that if you play fair, play your cards right, don't cheat, be honest, never malign another person, step on someone else's throat to get ahead, or push aside the ideas, conceptions, and hard work of another to get ahead, that if you respect the boundaries of another, that you would do well. But that's not true. This world isn't for you to conquer or to claim. It already has its victors here, and they aren't about to give up the throne without a fight. They've claimed what they know are the best parts of this world, and they are not about to relinquish that power to you or me or anyone else. They have been grooming and molding and shaping their children for decades so they can hand that power and wealth over to them. And if I or you want a piece of that power or wealth, don't think it's going to be a fair fight. Because the powers that be have trained their heirs on how to wield, manipulate, and lord over others that power and wealth, so that one day all that power, wealth, that big dog in the fight, can be theirs. And their children have been fighting amongst themselves for all that power, all that wealth. Their servants, even the lowest of their ranks, have been salivating about that power, that wealth. Their servants, the undeserved privileged, who open and lock their doors and stand behind them in public, looking out for their well-being. Their servants who send their hard-earned money to their families, open 401ks and money market accounts so they can send their children to schools where the tuition is higher than your yearly salary. Their servants who make sure their friends get the best jobs, even at the lowest levels, because they hear privileged conversations. And their friends act like they're privileged because they were the first to get a job when no one else could. And they all become beholden to the privileged few, unaware that they're being used and stepped on. They don't really see that they're no better off than those of us who don't know the privileged few. They just get to hang around them sometimes. They don't have a dog in the fight either. The rest who have been used and misused, who have been put out and stepped on, made to feel less than themselves. Especially after we've all spent our entire lives reminding ourselves daily that we are somebody, somebody with worth, somebody with intelligence and sophistication, somebody with the ability to stand up for ourselves and to stand with others for a righteous cause. We just want a change of power to hands we think we can trust. But sometimes it's the same set of hands with a different label. And the same people in power still manage to make you feel like if you just hang in there, one day you too can have a dog in this fight. If you want to. So that was it really all going so well? I wrote that one last year. Well, about a year and a half ago. Anyway, I'm Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. And tonight I am talking to you about preteen and teen suicides in the United States of America. Did you know that CNN actually got this story just in August? Yeah, they did. According to CNN, the story that they wrote it said suicides under the age of 13. There's one every 5 days. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Every 5 days? But then that's just the headline. It gets you involved in the story, and this is what it said. More than 1,300 suicides, dead children, have occurred since 1999 between the ages of 5 and 12, according to the CDC. That's the Center for Disease Control. That's one child every 5 days on an average over the past 17 years. 1,300 children have committed suicide in this country. And since 2013 to 2015, there has been one every 3 to 4 days. There's been a spike in that number between 11 and 12-year-olds. The CDC announced and said there has been a rise in suicide rates in the average age of 10 to 14-year-olds. The CDC has recorded suicides of children the ages of 5, 6, and 7 years old from 1995 to 2015. And my mind says, what happens in a child's mind at the age of 5, 6, 7, any child before the age of 18, before they even know how to even live life, that they would take their own life? But that's what happened. These kids have taken their own life, and they're 5, 6, and 7 years old. I looked in my Yahoo News and Google and all that stuff because I really wanted to know what the heck was going on that we had these kids who were committing suicide. Well, the story that I read about this young boy who was almost hung to death by a bunch of 14-year-olds kind of really answers the question. They are under as much pressure, if not more, than we are at their age. Because why? They don't understand what's going on in their life. They're just children. Well, think about it. There's a 5-year-old in pre-K or kindergarten, because sometimes kids can't start kindergarten until they're 7. And some of them are in pre-K. And kids can be really rough. And, you know, if the child has already have a soft heart and wants to be a loving, kind kid, and then there are kids who, well, you know, for whatever their reasons, they do tend to gather together and, you know, they got this mob mentality. So I'm thinking that's about what happened. But when you have a 5-year-old who's committing suicide by poison, I read a story about a kid who came home from school. He was 8 years old, or she was 8 years old, and they hung themselves with a tie in the bathroom, and their mother found them there. These stories are real. And you one's like, oh, that's not that many. Think about that, though. 1,300 children over the past 17 years. And how many of you can honestly say that you knew anything about it? Anything at all. Just anything. That a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-old will take their own life and be successful. That's hard to take, isn't it? It is. All right, so what's up next? That says 76% of these youth who died of the 1,300, 76% were boys. Children 5 to 17 who were hospitalized for suicide attempts have doubled in the United States over the last 10 years. 36.8% of 5 to 11-year-olds who died by suicide in this country were black. They don't have the statistics to say why these kids who were black at 36.8% committed suicide. They wanted to say it was a whole bunch of other things. And let's just face it, we're talking about kids who are 5 to 11 years old. And it could really just be anything. But when you're talking about a kid who can come home from school and hang himself with his parents' tie, something had to be going on. And nobody was paying attention enough to think that it was worth talking about. And if I'm not mistaken, there was that one story I just spoke about, that the parents are suing the school because the school apparently knew what was going on and they didn't inform the parents. That's why I say, parents, you have to be proactive. I don't care how busy you are. And let's face it, one child will keep you busy. And if you're an older parent, one child will keep you very busy. If you're a parent that has one on the hip, one in the stomach, and 2 at school, you're going to be extremely busy. If you're a parent who is a single parent, trust me, it's hard at best for a 2-parent household. I can only imagine what it's like for a single parent family, because you have to be judge, jury, and executioner of everything that goes on. And every decision that comes down the pike that has to be made by you. Anything that goes wrong is going to fall on your head. And people are going to be looking at you. Yeah, I got it. But you still got to be there for them. You might not like it. And many of them, I know a lot of parents have had to switch jobs, change jobs, quit jobs, go on welfare so they can spend more time with their kids. We do a lot, and yet we still have the numbers rising all the time. Kids are walking around trying to figure out who can I go to talk to. And I know that there are groups and people for parents to go to help out, but unfortunately, we just have to be more proactive about all these things. I'm gonna play you something that makes me feel like there's a hope. I wrote this when I was, well, my kids weren't babies because it's been a long time since my children were babies. But just listen to this. I wrote this. It's called I Just Love You.
I just love you. I want to be just like you when I grow up. When I get past and over this life I'm living right now, when I find a way to get from under all these failure notices from beyond, after I finish letting myself down and picking myself up and doing it again, I want to be just like you when I get older. And it might be a minute because I'm still trying to get over myself. When I let myself down, I beat myself up. When I do a good thing, I congratulate myself before I give thanks. And when I have a hard time understanding why things won't turn out the way I want them to, I blame everyone but me. I just love you. You never get angry when I snap at you when I'm wrong. You just look at me with compassion and give me my space. You always try to see what is good and right and wonderful and how I can always do better if I just try harder. You try to give me good books to read, music to listen to, places of solitude or venues where friends are. When I feel defeated and I try to give up, I swear I just love you. How many times have I followed my own bad advice? How many times have I thrown caution to the wind and have it slap me in the face? How many times do I have to wake up and regret the day before? How many times do I have to look another mundane day in the face to the end? I just love you because of your passion, drive, eagerness to step out every day and try something different. Because you do more than just persevere from the day before with a look of determination on your face. I want to be just like you when I grow up. But right now, I'm a little too naive, too green, too wet behind the ears. I don't get the subtle nuances in grown up conversations because I haven't lived yet. So I'm just going to have to put you on my nightstand and next to my mirror or my dresser. I'll watch you every day as I move and grow, and I'll try to keep pace day to day. And maybe, just maybe, one day I could be just like you. The me I'm going to be one day. There was a time when we could not wait to start the day. Man, I would wake up excited and refreshed, sometimes hungover, but always with memories from the day before that had to be shared and recaptured and relived in conversation and through socialization of the next day. We used to just get dressed because we knew we were going to see each other later. Remember that time not too long ago? That day when we all got together and sat on the stoop or stairs or the porch because we finally finished our chores or dinner was done and the kids were watching their evening TV shows. The evening breeze felt like silk and cool water on our skin. The city lights twinkled all around us as they hid the dirt and the debris of the day. All the skid marks on the streets became iridescent in the early evening. The shadows weren't so frightening back then because the lamplight from all the living room windows and the music from the first floor apartment radio station was always playing our favorite songs and created a backdrop for the frivolous conversation that was about to take place. Somebody always brought something to share, some leftover Kool Aid, chicken, whatever. It was just a friend offering anyway. Funny, for the first 5 minutes, it was always quiet, just silence. Then one of us would say something. Next thing you know, we were laughing and choking back tears and holding our sides over the not so comical when it happened day. It felt like we sat out there all night long. It felt like we sat out there so long, but I know we didn't. We finished hanging out around 10 or 11 p.m. Girl, I will see you tomorrow. I gotta put these kids in bed. It is so late. They might be on summer vacation, but we're not. Another laugh and it was over. That last breath of cool evening air. No more wine, no more laughing camaraderie. Couple of hugs, and back to our own separate lives where we'd make our own memories and share more laughs. But none like that. Just before I was born, my last memory was of my last breath and the excitement I felt, the anticipation of the new wonders of this new world I would soon be living in. I remember saying goodbye to everyone because I wouldn't know them again. Not like I knew them now. The next time would be different because I would be different, because I would have lived in the new world. Whatever changes that would happen to me would be permanent. My old friends would never recognize me. Just before I was born, I knew everything there was to know because I came from a collective of love and thought, and no one hid anything they knew from another. Then I took my first breath, and it was gone. All of it. It was like they didn't exist. I don't remember the air or the ground or if there were buildings or homes or anything at all. It's all gone. But there's this little inkling of something inside me that says there is something somewhere, some place better than this. So the first thing I felt was pain because I was lost and lonely and cold and so small. I was vulnerable. I needed protection from everything. The air here is different. The food, the clothing, the shelter, it's all so foreign, so new, so strange, and somehow so wonderful. Now, but I still feel like I'm missing something. So I cry, and you comfort me, and the warmth and love is felt. I've grown older now, and I've learned so many wonderful, some dreadful things, which I didn't know, but I have to know if I'm to live here, grow more here, survive here. I've learned that here is not forever. There is forever. Where I was is forever. You told me that you would be there for me and forever, and just believe you, and you would meet me in forever. So now I can't wait, but I have to, and that's okay too, because I am forever, even though I was born dead. Altars. Come, place your offering at my feet. Erect statues of honor in me. Submit yourselves before the altar of your choice. Line the streets of your neighborhood with flags on totems and street lights that dim the shadows of life. Prostrate yourself before this placard of love, hate, this symbol of your most secret desire. Pray for ardently, burn incense incessantly, work, 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 morning remembrances, afternoon supplications, evening oblations, midnight sacrifices. Burn, dump, repeat.
Well, you know, we get older. We get older and we don't think about the things that made us upset when things are going well. Some of us carry those things throughout our life. They dictate to us how we act with people socially, emotionally, in business meetings, on the job, at home. Um, we're talking about preteen and teen suicides tonight, right here on Poetry Song BFD. I'm your host, Johanna Bright. You can follow me on Twitter at Mama Yaya. You can follow me on YouTube at Excerpts from My Resume, Joe's Poetry, Excerpts from My Resume. You can follow me on Facebook at Excerpts from My Resume, Johanna Bright. Or you can just go ahead and Google me because I like that. Google me. You will find me. Call Google Johanna Bright or Excerpts from My Resume. I am your host for Poetry Song BFD Battle for Dominance. And tonight I'm talking about preteen and teen youth and the occurrences of it. In the last 17 years, 1,300 successful suicides have been committed in this country. 36.8% of those suicides were all black children. The majority of that number is male. 76% of the suicides that happen in this country are men, all that are successful. And unfortunately, women, we do tend to commit suicide far more than men, but men are far more successful. I don't need to tell you about the ways that they do them because if you have had suicidal thoughts, you already know the kinds of ways that people have devised to take their own life. Why do children do it? Why does a 5-year-old come home and take his father's tie, wrap it around his throat, and hang himself in the family bathroom? All these children that have had that happen to them and are still alive today will must seriously have some counseling, some family counseling. Parents, please, I am a parent, I am a grandparent, I love my children, and sometimes we have to stop and just listen to what they have to say. We may or may not have the answers that they need, but what they desire most is someone to listen to them, so that they know that they can come to you and it's a safe environment and they can tell you everything that's going on in their heart, and don't be judgmental. A 5-year-old cannot handle it. 5 to 11-year-olds have committed suicide in this country successfully. Think about that. The story prompted me to have the show was about this 8-year-old boy who was being taunted by some 14-year-old boys who eventually hung them with the rope from a tire swing. They watched that child swing back and forth until he freed himself. They were arrested. They're being protected by the police. But that prompted me to think about a lot of different things. All of those children are going to have counseling in their life, probably for a very long time. And if those parents are not aware of what's going on in their lives, they need to be aware right now. The parents of those children who did that to that young boy. Because that young boy, 8 years old, and I hope that he survives, I pray that he has, he's still going to need counseling because he was taunted because of his color of his skin. Why does everything in this country come back to the color of your skin? For our children's sake. Parents, let's be proactive. I am Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. Find me on my website at mommayaya.wixsite.com/website, or you can just Google me at Joe's Poetry, Excerpts from My Resume. I am everywhere you want to read. When you get on my website, buy your fave track. It's only 99 cents each. Make it your mantra. I'm here to uplift. I'm here to let you know that I'm in it to the end with you. I'm a human. You're human. Let's think of each other as that. Enjoy the journey with me, people. I'm changing the world one line at a time. Make that your mantra. Until then, you all have a good, blessed night.